Hi guys, my name is Rickard, PJ Professional at Bourne Golf and Country Club, and today's topic is one that's close to everyone's heart. We're going to see how we can hit the ball a little bit further. If you're a fan of YouTube, you've probably seen plenty of videos on this topic. You've probably been scouring the internet trying to find the secret to hitting the ball a bit further. You've probably seen things about turning your shoulders as much as you can whilst keeping your hips restricted. You might have seen things about trying to sort of keep the width at the top of the backswing. They're all great tips, but in my experience, the majority of golfers fail to maximise the distance that they can hit the ball simply because they have poor dynamic balance. Now, what I mean by poor dynamic balance in simple terms is that they have poor weight transfer both in the backswing and the downswing. And the main problem really is that they have poor weight transfer in the backswing, and that poor weight transfer into and through to the top of the backswing means that they then can't efficiently deliver maximum club head speed at impact. So today's focus, guys, is going to be really on improving that dynamic balance and getting loaded at the top of the swing. Okay, so what do we mean by having the correct weight transfer? Well, I'm going to give you a concept of correct weight transfer that you can work on at home in your garden. You don't even need a golf club, so we're just going to throw that down now, okay? All that we need to understand is how the right hip, the back hip, so the right hip if you're a right-handed golfer, okay? The back hip rotates on the backswing and the position of our head. Okay, let's start with the right hip. So I'm going to put this hand in this pocket, I'm just going to pop this hand on my right hip and take my posture. This right hip, at no point, let me make this clear, at no point does this right hip move backwards. Yeah? At no point does it move laterally towards my back foot. It only rotates on itself. So here's a thought for you, one that I share with my students. What I want you to imagine is there's an electric cattle prod, yeah, that's been mounted here at hip height, and it's 1 inch away, okay, from your back hip. When you complete your backswing, don't give yourself an electric shock. It should simply rotate, and you'll find that actually as it rotates, if you've done it correctly, what you'll actually find under close analysis is that the gap between your hip and the cattle prod will actually increase a little bit as your right hip effectively turns a little bit round the corner. Now there is a caveat to this, an important one, and I'm going to show you that from this angle here, from down the line, okay? It's absolutely imperative, guys, that when you're rotating, that you ensure that you keep the flex in your back knee, yeah? So the flex in your right knee as a right-handed golfer should remain the same as it was at address. Now for the second part, which is how much our head moves during the backswing. Now we all know that amateurs love to tell each other that they lifted their head or their head moved during the swing, but of course that's really vague instruction and often incorrect instruction that we give each other. So here I'm just going to give you a nice clear understanding of how much the head should move on the backswing, okay? What I'm going to do, and we'll see this later with some lines, I'm going to pop the shaft so it runs straight down the middle of my face and through my nose. Now as golf coaches, what we often see is the individual does not really rotate around the central point. They don't rotate in such a way that that line stays dissecting your head in some way or another. We often find the individual will move quite far onto the front foot before then leaning really far back in a sort of reverse tilt or reverse pivot, or we'll find that the golfer will sway quite a lot and move the head quite far to the back foot because they've read something in a golf magazine or they've seen something and they think that they really need to transfer the weight from the back foot to the front foot, so they end up with a lot of movement. The amount of movement that you should see in terms of the head moving laterally towards the back foot is really quite small. With a wedge or an iron, it might almost be non-existent, okay? You might only really see just the head rotate with the neck as the shoulders rotate, okay? You will see some golfers, some professional golfers and maybe some juniors and some very flexible people somehow that manage to keep their chin pointing straight down whilst turning their shoulders. It's okay for your head to rotate a little bit, guys, all right? When you come to a driver, 3-wood, it might be the case that because there's quite a lot of force pulling you towards your back foot as you swing, because the swing has more speed with a driver or 3-wood because the shaft is longer, so the arc is wider. You might find that the head moves a little bit, and you should allow it to move a little bit towards the back foot. But when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit. I'm going to say half a head. That's what I give my students. Draw the line, you can have half a head. Once I start seeing it go further, we start seeing a little bit of a gap, or we start seeing it reaching that left ear, then we know that really we sway too far onto the back foot. Well, there you go, guys. I hope that made sense. We're now going to go into the swing studio and draw a few lines so you can see what it looks like with some lines on the screen. And I'm also going to show you some examples of things that you really shouldn't be doing as well. You might spot yourself in some of these examples. Enjoy it.
Let's start off with an example of how to do it correctly. Concentrate on the line by the hip. Notice how the hip rotates away slightly from the red line at the top of the swing. Now let's concentrate on the line going through the head. Notice how the head moves slightly away and towards the back foot, but the line still dissects through the head. Now here's how not to do it. Number 1, right hip bumps too far past the red line. Number 2, hip and head move too far towards the back foot. On this one, the hip is great, but the head moves too far back. On this one, you'll notice that the hip and the head have moved too far forward towards the front foot. And lastly, the hip goes back and the head goes forward. What a disaster. In other words, guys, no, no, please no, oh my god, no, yes, let's do it.
You have my heart, you have my soul, you have my